Hi, my name is Matt Norman, and I teach English 010 Integrated Reading and Writing 2 at the Vincennes campus. And the purpose of this video is to provide a bit of a concise overview of the course 010 English 010 and what it does that is a little different than previous developmental courses and how it prepares students for English 101. So we'll talk a little bit about its kind of emphasis as well as some of the assignments in a fairly brief way. There will be other videos that pick apart different aspects. I've just recently recorded ones that focus on assignments, the major assignments for the course in a little bit more depth, what to cover in those essays, suggestions for that, not mandates, and then also just a little bit of talking about unit design, especially as it relates to the idea of integrating reading and writing. This is just going to provide kind of a generic or general overview of the course though. So I start off with the course catalog description. As far as English 010 Integrated Reading and Writing 2 goes, the main thing to kind of keep in mind here is that this is a course that is supposed to prepare students for English 101. They need additional skills and work in reading and writing support, so we're supposed to give that to them in this course. So everything we do should be with an eye towards English 101 and what they'll have to do there. There's a lot of emphasis on critical thinking in that course, research, writing obviously, but writing in depth and writing with analysis and argumentative strategies. So by the end of this course, they should be prepared to do that. Two other things just to kind of point out as far as this course goes, and they're kind of highlighted in the course catalog description. This is, of course, an integrated reading and writing course, and that needs to be kind of thought throughout every decision made as far as assignments go. Where can we find ways to put reading and writing activities and to support those skills together as much as possible? And that's a little different than the old versions of our developmental sequence where we had those things a little bit more separated out, but now that they're integrated, it saves students a lot of time and money in the sense that they can just take this one course and they can get to English 101 a little bit faster. It does mean the course is a little bit more packed than it was in the past when it was just a writing course or just a reading course. That's been my experience anyway. But the students are getting a more in-depth education as far as these two skills go, and seeing the connections better as a result as well. And then finally, just an important little note, this course is designed to be an alternative to the way that students would do this on the Vincennes or Jasper campuses. So it's for online delivery. That's actually how I've taught it the last year. And for sites where students might not be numerous enough to support our English co-rec model. That's what we use on the Vincennes and Jasper campus. And this is just a way to give them some of that support and to still streamline the process a little bit, but it is a little bit different than Vincennes and Jasper. And if anybody asks about that, that's what's going on there. This is an alternative so that there's not as much concern about, small class sizes where things like the co-rec model are just much more difficult to arrange. Beyond that, you can see that students might be coming to English 010 after finishing English 007 or English 008. Again, same idea for those two courses. One of them is taught on the Jasper and Vincennes campuses. One of them is taught online and at other sites, again, just to reflect the different possibilities there versus for one that's taught online and one that's taught at the main campus or the Jasper campus. But students might be coming in having completed that course, or students might be brand new and they might test into the course just underneath English 101. The course outcomes, the main reason that I put these up here from our CCO document is just to list the main concerns of the course, and also once again just to highlight the sort of integrated nature of our outcomes as far as reading and writing goes. So you can see them, our outcomes are to describe and demonstrate steps of the writing process, including pre-writing, drafting, revisioning, and editing in a variety of compositions. Develop and apply reading comprehension and critical reading skills to a variety of college-level texts in order to assess content, make judgments, and reach conclusions. Locate, evaluate, and use credible sources from library and online. Summarize, paraphrase, and quote from outside sources fairly and ethically, applying proper documentation skills. Reflect, self-assess strengths and weaknesses in reading and writing. So you can see at the beginning, and I believe if I recall correctly, these were outcomes that were literally pulled from the old versions of the courses with maybe a modification to wording here or there. So, obviously, outcome number one is more writing based, outcome number two is more reading based, and then you can see they start to dovetail into each other. I've color coded it to kind of highlight that distinction. The red would be what you might think of as being like more of a traditional writing outcome. The blue would be more like the traditional reading outcome. But then the ones after that are really where these two skills dovetail together naturally. You obviously need reading skills to find sources, and then we're going to use them in writing purposes. So it's really an outcome for both courses. I'm positive that the use of credible sources and all that was in many of our writing course CCOs. And then same thing with summary, paraphrasing, quote. Those source integration strategies are incredibly important for writing as well as reading. So we're not really reinventing the wheel or putting in stuff that doesn't make sense to put in. We're just trying to establish the connection a little bit more, and that's important for course designers, instructors to know as well. And obviously reflection is a metacognitive strategy that helps reading and writing, so we want to make sure that we're doing it for both, and that's an outcome that applies both ways. Same thing with our course content. Students will be expected to compose writing assignments of various lengths and levels of complexity. They'll utilize the writing process, more of a writing content item. The next one's more of a reading content item, illustrating ability to use basic reading comprehension skills necessary for entry into college. And then the next one is probably a little bit more of a writing outcome, although you could definitely make the case that you can't do this without good reading skills, right? Recognizing both major essay errors and sentence structure errors, and then even the critical reading skills in the next one. You're going to read in order to make judgments, in order to critique, and a lot of times that's done through writing. So again, if I kind of color code it, you can see some of them we can make the case are a little bit more writing or reading focused or emphasized, but when you get down to it with the source integration strategies, those are both reading and writing skills that are really necessary there. The use of information resources like the dictionary or maybe software programs or the internet. And then again, with reflections, we're talking about things that readers and writers need to be able to do, and they kind of need to switch back and forth in doing them. So I just highlight that to make that point really, really clear, and I hope that it is. The last thing that I wanted to share is just the course grading breakdown as we have it from the CCO, and many of these categories are left intentionally flexible, a little broad, so that instructors can use them as they wish. And so, like, for example, quizzes, tests, and exercises, that can be whatever you want it to be. I use it for outlines and also for chapter review quizzes or worksheets or things like that. Critical reading activities, of course, that can be done a number of different ways. We want to make sure it's a pretty big chunk, again, just to make sure that that reading aspect is well represented in this course. And critical reading activities could be as simple as discussions or quizzes, over readings, dialectical journals. We have a document on the Vincennes campus that we've developed called a reading process guide that we'd be glad to share, and we do a number of those throughout the semester, and that usually gets up to that 20%. Summaries is we also want to make its own separate grade in this, just because again that's the one of the clearest intersections of reading and writing skills, and so we don't want anybody to go through English 010 without having done a lot of summarizing, and that obviously also prepares them really well for English Composition 1. And then the reflection journal, again, I personally am a strong believer in the value of reflection and metacognitive strategies in the writing and reading classroom, because it just helps students to figure out their strengths, their weaknesses, to be able to just know their learning better. And the more that they understand their learning and can explain it, the better they will be. There's tons and tons of research going back, 50 years now to demonstrate that fact. And so the reflection journal can be a lot of different things. I do it as a weekly journal that students have to complete one post. Usually I do it through Blackboard, but I teach an online course, so that makes a lot of sense, where they just have to post something in response to a prompt that I give them for the week, and it has to be like around 150 or 200 words. And sometimes it's about class-related stuff. What do you think your strengths and weaknesses are as a writer? In fact, my first one is usually like, do you like English? What have your experiences with English been? And they just kind of talk about that a little bit. Sometimes it's just a little bit more broad. Like, again, I teach an online course, and one of the things I just kind of wanted to know from them about, a month or two into the semester is, how do you like the distance education model? Is it helpful for you? Is it not? Because if they figure that out and it's not going so well, then that's a clear sign that, okay, I got to do something a little different. But that's obviously very suited to my purpose, and you can make it whatever you want it to be. The prompts are not set in stone, although I do have a lot of them, and I'm glad to share them as well. The essay projects, I have a video that kind of goes through these next four items in a little bit more detail, but I'll just say here that the essay projects are all very flexible in terms of the exact prompt that you use. And essay 1 and 2 can be really any type of essay that you want it to be. So if you have something that you've used in the past, you can very likely use it again in this. And feel free to do that. For essay 3, again, you can kind of choose whatever type of argumentative, persuasive topic you want, but we do ask that it be argumentation or persuasive in its scope, just because, again, in English 101, they do a lot of that type of writing, and it's important to give them some reps with that, and do just a little bit of research as a part of that. It doesn't have to be very in-depth research, but just the idea of that source integration aspect, finding more information than what they already know. Those are valuable skills to give them some repetition with. And then the final portfolio with reflection, this is something we've done in a lot of our composition courses here. We do it in English 101 as well. So it's simply a reflective letter that they write to the instructor, arguing for their growth over the semester, as well as revised copies of those essay projects. Some people also add in some of the summaries and maybe some other kind of like small assignments as well. Some of that is up to instructor discretion, but we do ask that they have that reflective piece that, again, just ask them to articulate how they have gotten better, because if they can figure that out, and if they can make that case in a convincing way, we know that they're figuring things out, regardless of what the grades may show. Maybe they're just barely passing, but if they can explain some of the things and they can show it with examples. Here's a thesis statement I wrote at the beginning of the semester. I realized that it wasn't very good. Here it is, and now it's a lot better. Then that's obviously a huge plus. And so with that, I'll switch just back to my contact information. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'd be glad to forward any documents or help out in any way that I can. But with that, I'll end this video, and I thank you for watching, and please do let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Good luck as you design your course.